So I'm going to show you how to make a sourdough loaf in the preparation for the dough part. So I begin by sifting out my flour. I use King Arthur or Dakota made flour, and I use 4 cups of that. I sift that out. Then I next get warm water. You don't want it too warm because it'll kill your starter. And then I like to pour off about a 1/4 cup of my sourdough starter. This has been actively fed in the last 6 to 12 hours. And then the other ingredient is a tablespoon of salt. So here we're going to add in the warm water. And then we pour in our sourdough starter. And a good way to tell if it's going to be a good loaf is by the float test. So the starter should float in the water. This doesn't always happen for me, and I actually took a class and they said the same thing, and my sourdough has still turned out, so it is okay if it doesn't float. And then I added in my salt. Now we're just going to mix it till it's really well combined. It kind of gives like a murky, like creamy color. We want that salt to kind of dissolve, and then also that starter is getting worked into the water there. So here is that kind of like murky looking, almost like milk, watered down milk. And then add in your sifted flour. I like to use a glass bowl, it just works better for me. And then I also have this particular wooden spoon I love. So I just really mix that in nice and well. And then the dough will start to get a little shaggy, which is good. And eventually kind of get to the point where I like to use my hands instead. I will either get this wet with water or with flour. Sometimes I feel like getting them wet is a little bit better just because the dough is more wet from the starter, which is normal. So just mix it really good, and then again, like I said, I'll at the end start to kind of use my hands to mix it better, and then you can do your couple stretch and folds here. And then once you have your formed dough ball, I like to either take out my lid for this particular bowl and put it about 3/4 of the way on. Otherwise I get a tea towel, get the center wet, and cover the bowl. And I like to let my dough sit overnight for 12 hours. It works with my schedule and how I make it, and my dough still turns out great. I don't actually do all the stretch and folds, and I still have a really good sourdough. So here is how our dough turned out. And now we're going to let it sit for 12 hours.